Hello, welcome all. Nice to see everybody here. I'm having a very bad hair humidity day. I don't know about the rest of you. Let's see. Let's have a question before we get started. I was thinking today a lot about gratitude. And how important it is when difficult things are going on. Obviously, we just sent an email about the loss of a student, which is the worst and hardest thing we ever have to deal with. And just I'm so incredibly grateful for our student affairs team, our health team, our mental health team. And I was interested in what everybody else on the campus might be, who else on the campus, not what or who else on the campus others might be grateful for. By the way, speaking of gratitude, so if you have an answer to that, feel free to type it in the Q&A while we're bringing people in. What am I grateful for at WPI or who? I got a nice card today as well. I just went out of my office and got this from a parent. I attended the recent graduation ceremony for the class of 2020. It was such a nice ceremony. Thank you for having it. Short and sweet, but so nice of someone to actually send a card to express gratitude. I think it's such an important thing that we can all do to support each other. So I would love to hear what at WPI you're grateful for in the Q&A. Nothing. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you, Constance. Yeah, we had another vaccine clinic yesterday for international students, and it was offered to any faculty and staff who are not vaccinated. And I still haven't heard the number who came, but lots of international students who not quite 100 international students who couldn't access vaccines at home, and they all got their first, or nearly all got their first shot yesterday. So that's a really good thing. Thank you, Matt. That's very nice. What else? What else are people grateful for? It means so much when just express that little bit of gratitude. Summer hours, good. We like that. That went well. I'd love to hear more from folks about whether that was valuable. Unfortunately, it seemed like the summer was busier than any of us were hoping. So I hope people did occasionally at least get to take that extra half day and get to take that half hour at the end of the day. Welcome in, everyone. Good to see you. We're having a conversation in the Q&A about gratitude and what we're grateful for, especially within our WPI community. It's challenging times we're living in, and I think expressing gratitude to one another is a really important thing to do. Meeting free Fridays. I know, aren't we all like, can we please keep it when the academic year starts? I think we should give it a shot. I think we should give it a shot. Great colleagues and great students. Love that. Okay, we probably got about 5 more minutes until we get started, so settle on in. Thank you, Cindy. Grateful for everything WPI has done to keep the community safe the past 15 plus months. Lots of votes for the additional off time in the summer. I'm happy that everybody was able to take advantage. Definitely plus wanting those meeting-free Fridays. Took restraint, right? Definitely is worth gratitude. Ooh, just realizing I don't have any water. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves about what you're grateful for here at WPI and our broader community. Hi, everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. We're having a little combo in the Q&A about gratitude, what we're grateful for. Obviously, I'm super excited to be back together with all of you as we head into the year, and it's a remains a challenging moment. So expressing a bit of gratitude to one another and to the, to one another really would be great. Flexibility, love that. Thank you, Stephanie. Great inputs. I hope everyone has been enjoying these last few weeks of summer that have been slightly less soggy than the middle part. Thank you all for your answers. I am grateful for all of you and your support and your engagement and your questions and your pushing us to always be better. So thank you for that. It is just now 3 o'clock straight up, so we will wait another minute or so before we jump in and get started. Why don't you go to the title slide though, Kate? I'm grateful for Kate and Jolene and the whole IT team who make all of this possible. It makes me so happy to look at that picture. So welcome in, everyone. We'll just get started in another minute or so. Almost 200 on the call, and I'm sure people are watching on the stream as well. Hello, YouTubers. People coming in fast and furious now. Just get going in 1 sec. Thank you all for sharing what you're grateful for in the Q&A. That was great. Okay. So, welcome to our 18th virtual town hall. It is great to see so many folks here. Welcome back if you've been away recently or for most of the summer. And welcome back to campus for so many of you who might have still mostly been working remotely or in hybrid mode who are now spending more time on campus. It's great to have you back with us, and welcome back to our students as well. They'll probably have many, if any, students on here, but they are around campus. If you are out and about, you will see them. So my goal today, this is going to be a pretty tactical, operational kind of update, just to remind everybody I don't think there's anything that you may not have already had access to knowing, but it's kind of bringing together in one place where we are, how we're walking into the year, and how we're thinking about that, and to make sure that we're answering your questions about that, and kind of getting us all ready for what's coming, because here they come, they're coming. And of course, I want to start by acknowledging that just a couple of hours ago, we sent an email about the death of a student. That, that's literally the worst thing we have to deal with in our roles. And I want to acknowledge that that's on my mind, and I know it's on a lot of my colleagues' minds here and a lot of your minds. And I'm not going to start with it, but I'm going to come back to it at the end. And I'm going to ask Charlie Morse to come on at the end and say a few words to the community about this, and also about kind of how to sit with this information, and then, some things that we can all do as we head into the new year to deal with this tragic loss and to work to prevent that from happening. So, to do our best to contribute to making this a place where help seeking is really normalized and where help and support are provided. So we'll come to that as well. And to everyone who, like me, shed some tears as a result of this loss, and the one a few weeks ago as well. So that's what's really the gut punch here. I'm with you, and we'll talk about it some more in a few minutes. And now I want to talk a bit about where we're headed. And as we always do, we start with that North Star. And this has been the same slide I have showed for, 15 months, at least 16, 17 months now. And the good news about the North Star is it's unwavering. And in this case, it really is. The guiding principles are still the same, keeping our community safe and healthy as front and center. And that means, staying on top of the science as best we can, staying connected to others about what they're doing and what they're seeing and learning from across the whole higher ed and medical community, and serving our students in this unprecedented moment, right? And that is a big part of the job for us coming into this year, is to really stay focused on making sure our students are having an educational experience that is advancing their goals. And to do that, we have to support all of you, our faculty and staff, in your essential work every single day. Why is my watch yelling at me? Stop it. All right. Keeping our WPI family together is something I'm very proud that we've been able to do, and continuing. And I think this is going to get, frankly, even harder this year than it was last year, which is, I think a lot of people are frustrated and angry and cranky about variants, which I completely get, by the way. I'm first in that line, cranky about variants. And it's going to be easy for either us to forget that we're all in this together, or occasionally probably for our students to forget that and perhaps lash out in ways that we find difficult to deal with. And so I think, again, just remembering, like, we are in this together and we are going to get through it together. And the only way we're going to get through it is together. And so care and respect more than ever is essential. Think before you send that nasty email, think before you make that comment, and just remember there's a human being on the other end of the Zoom, on the other end of the phone, on the other side of the quad, and make sure that we're being extra caring and respectful of one another. And then continuing to serve our broader community, whether that's in higher ed in Worcester, across the Commonwealth, across the country, around the world. We have a big community at WPI, and they matter to us. So let's jump into some updates. So first of all, remember back in May, and it was going to be like, hey, I really want everyone to just take a breath this summer. Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing there's some of you sitting here right now going, yeah, not so much with the take a breath. I get it. It was an active summer. Just looking here at the education and research participation, over 1,000 students, 17% of our current students took an e-term course. That's amazing. That's great. It means they're trying to get ahead on their education, trying to make up for something, trying to learn something new. And thanks to all the faculty who stepped up to teach in the summer, and to all the staff and students who participated in making that successful. And then we also had a great summer of undergraduate research with 6 different grants around undergraduate research experiences, what we call REUs, research experience for undergraduates. And these are often students who are not WPI students coming here to do summer research. So what a great visibility opportunity for us. And many of those were students of color. So I'm excited that we continue to expand our summer research opportunities for our students and for other students. And again, thank you to the faculty for taking in undergraduate students and advancing giving them a taste of, I call it the lightning bolt. That's what happened to me, right? That summer research experience as an undergraduate was like a lightning bolt from the sky, like, this is it. So you changed somebody's life this summer if you advised undergraduate research. So that's fantastic. And by the way, we spent a lot of the summer dealing with the fact that we have a fairly large incoming class, which I'll talk more about. And that, the rise of the Delta variant was kind of made the work of coronavirus preparation more dynamic than we'd hoped. So everybody worked really hard. And I hope that some of the flexible hours, and we saw that in the gratitude notes that people left, I'm loving that people were able to take advantage of that. I hope they were. And I also hope that you were each able to take at least a bit of time away from campus and get yourself grounded. So, but recognizing that, because here we go, because I know it was a busy summer, especially for our Res Life folks, for the CERT folks, and for the academic folks. So thanks to everybody for making it a great summer. And to me, the highlight, so if you go to the next slide, had to be last Saturday. So we celebrated finally in person the great class of 2020. So these are the students who graduated during that first COVID term. Remember, so long ago, D term of 2020, when we had to send them home and tell them not to come back. And we had to tell them we couldn't have an in-person commencement for them. And we asked them, you want to have a virtual commencement now? You want to do something in person later? And overwhelmingly, they said, we want to have an in-person something later. And so we did. We did that this weekend. And I will tell you, there were almost 700 students, bachelor's, master's, and PhD, who came back to WPI to walk across that stage and to have that picture taken, or to be hooded as a PhD student who walked across the bridge. And I got to walk with them, which I don't usually do at commencement, but I did this time. And just share their joy. And I mean, again, high percentage of crying moms, lots of crying moms in a good way. Such gratitude for us keeping our promise. We promised this to them. We told them we weren't going to forget it, and we didn't. And we also did a really lovely barbecue afterwards, so people could hang out and spend more time and reconnecting with folks. And thanks so much to the folks who do our commencement planning. We don't have a commencement office. A lot of universities do. We don't have that. So it's sort of a volunteer brigade of fabulous humans who come together and make this happen every year. So this year they had to do it 8 times, 7 times, 8 if you include the commissioning ceremony. But so with all the commencements in May, and then this past weekend, it was a lot. And I just want to express gratitude to them. And I saw students who I knew came from very far away to come back this week for last weekend to be a part of this, to actually have their moment. So there, and I would call it a moment in the sun because it was literally in the sun. The sun was like right on us for a couple hours, but it was fantastic. So congrats. I know there's some parents of class of 2020 graduates here, and congratulations to them again, and to all the grads. It was a very uplifting day. So those are the ones who are leaving, and now we got the next ones are coming in. So they're back, they're coming. So we, and in fact, again, if you've been on campus, you've seen students. There's a lot of students around already. So starting about a week ago, we had some of the student athletes arrive. We had RAs and CAs coming. This week, another wave of all of those kind of folks coming in, international students, some of our early arrival programs like Connections starting to come in. And then what would call regular move-in, where we'll have a few thousand more show up, will be August 21st to 24th. So Saturday, the 21st is move-in day for the class of 2025. I will say we're hovering at about 1,400 for that class. We'll see how many, come, but every year we have to overshoot because there's what we call summer melt of students who initially think they're coming, and then in the end, maybe they don't come, or maybe they get off a wait list at another place, or maybe they decide to take a gap year, or something else happens. And this year we planned for melt kind of in between the COVID year, which had a lot of melt, and prior years. And what we're seeing is not very much melt at all. So we have a large class, and we're planning for that, and we're supporting the various folks around campus who need to deal with us having a large class. And one of the biggest challenges right away is housing that class. Plus there were a lot of upper class students who really did want to live on campus. And so we had a wait list for housing as well. So enter what we're calling South Village. You see a couple of photographs here. These were large converted houses that have been converted into residence halls that were being used by Becker College, which, as you know, closed at the end of June. So these are just a couple short blocks south of campus. We're going to add them to our route, for the shuttles to pick up students, or it's really quite an easy walk. It's no further than Gateway, but just a little bit in the other direction. So we actually have 3 of these. It houses about not quite 100 upper class students. And that's a great solution. We're also renting the Hampton Inn again this year, so keeping students in the Hampton Inn. We have not fully redensified the freshman year housing to what it was before COVID. We've done a little bit of that selectively, but still it's somewhat de-densified from where it was before. So again, we're well over 100% occupancy with these new beds coming into our housing system. And that's a great thing because we know that students that live in our residential system persist better, do well, are engaged with our campus. And it's actually a great thing that we have so many students who really are wanting to be residential students in the truest sense of the word. So get ready, because this weekend they're coming back. And classes start a week from today. So exciting. Speaking of welcoming, so at the last town hall, Kyle reminds me, we did welcome Mike Horan, although Mike Horan, our new CFO, was not yet started. So my guess is he's on the call, and if he is, welcome Mike. So he's now here, and you'll get to meet him, and he's really something. And we've got John McNeill, an old dean and a new dean. So we have now a full complement of permanent deans in all of the deans' roles. All 6 of our deans are now permanent, which is amazing. If you think about where we have been, I'm super excited about this incredible group of people, including John McNeill, who is now officially the Bernard M. Gordon Dean of Engineering. And I think he's only been here 28 years or something. So he's still learning. But I'm sure you all will show him the ropes. And in all seriousness, there's no one I'd rather work with and problem solve than John on this campus. So thrilled, John, that you're in that role permanently. And Mimi Scheller, who is the new dean of the Global School, our inaugural dean. She came to us from Drexel and is a social scientist who really invented a new field of mobility studies. And she's a brilliant social scientist, and also has a great vision about collaborating with our faculty across the entire campus, as well as our students, and really accelerating the progress of our global impact through the global school. So welcome, Mimi. And it's again a thrill. This group of deans, you're not going to meet a more committed group of people to helping us support our faculty and move this institution forward. So thrilled to be working with all of you. Okay, so let's start talking a little bit about heading into the year. This is a bit of a wordy slide, I'm sorry, but I'll spend a little bit of time on it. And then we'll dive in a little bit more to several of these things as we go ahead in the other slides. So I think of this as a thoughtful balance. As you all know, COVID has required lots of thoughtful balances of things. Not the hardest, all the most difficult things in life require thoughtful balance, right? So that's nothing new. And I would think that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So we're working to create, this is like the top line here, as near normal an experience for students as possible. And not to dwell on this too much right now, but we are clearly seeing impacts on student mental health and well-being, of the lack of connection with one another, of the impacts of COVID. And of course, we all have felt that, but these students are in their formative years of building, their social selves. And so really working to, as well as we can, and balancing health and safety, creating that as near normal experience for students as possible, as near best WPI experience as possible. And we are starting the year with many protective health and safety protocols in place. And you remember last year, we used to talk about the layers of safety. No one thing is going to protect you, but the combination of all of them will. And we found this to be true, right? If you think about it, we did how many hundreds of thousands of hours of classroom instruction last year with no transmission in classrooms, right? We were able to keep people safe. This year, what I would say those layers of safety include are number one is extraordinarily high vaccination rate. And I'll share the data with you in a moment, but extraordinarily high. That is huge for being able to know that even if occasional infection happens, the likelihood of that infection being at all serious or requiring hospitalization, or God forbid, resulting in death, is incredibly low. We are very well protected by the high vaccination rate of our entire community. So that's number one. It's probably number two as well. Next, masking indoors. We brought back indoor masking because of the bullet that follows this, because we are going to be at higher occupancy in most campus settings. Again, it's good protection while we work to really understand transmission in our highly vaccinated environment. So I'll come back and talk more about masks. Regular testing. Again, you might say, well, I'm vaccinated. Why do I have to be tested? Well, one, we know Delta variant can be transmitted to vaccinated people and from vaccinated people. And so we just need to it's our way of keeping our system instrumented, right? Like you need to understand what's happening. We're doing once a week only right now. Hopefully, I think that's enough. And we're going to do pooled testing. I'll talk more about that in a bit too. That's another great layer of safety. Cleaning and ventilation. Those things were in place last year. The surface transmission stuff is not probably as serious as it was originally first thought. So it's not exactly the same cleaning protocols, but there are still enhanced cleaning in place, and there is still enhanced ventilation activity in place in classrooms and things. So those are all layers of safety. And I would say, if you think about where in your life are you going to go and find a place that's 95% vaccinated, at least, where everybody's masked indoors, where everybody has been in a regular testing program, where there's enhanced cleaning and ventilation, this has to be one of the safest places that one can hang out and spend their time. And if it turns out that that isn't true, we will know it right away, because we're testing everybody all the time, right? So we are going back to full occupancy in most campus settings. As you go back to that first bullet, experiencing as near normal as possible, these next two bullets really are what that's about. Back to nearly full occupancy and in-person delivery of academic experience. I should probably have put co-curricular activities in here as well. Clubs can meet in person, and classrooms are going to have in-person delivery. And, not to say that we're going back to exactly the way things used to be, right? The whole idea here is we learned some really interesting stuff over the course of the last 15 months. Let's leverage that. We put technology in every classroom. Let's leverage that technology. That's good. And the students have told us that in-person delivery is really essential. And so we just ask all of you to think about, where is there an opportunity for an in-person interaction with the student, whether that's in an office, at the help desk, whatever it might be, in the career center, as well as in the classroom. Those are so meaningful. There are some exceptions here. We have a cohort of undergraduate students, international undergraduate students who could not get here. So that's what we mean by defined hardship, students who could not get here. We actually have created a cohort model for them and are working on some remote delivery for them. They're not really scattered about. There's not a big hybrid delivery thing happening this year, in person, online. Now, again, the in-person courses, you have lecture capture capabilities and things like that, which we encourage faculty to use the technology to help augment the in-person experience. Anyway, so we're getting back to that again, much more near normal experience. Just very quickly, vendors and visitors are allowed on campus, but they've got to follow our guidelines, things like they need to wear face coverings. Building access, we've unlocked the buildings, woo! So we're back to having much more of an open campus. Again, if we find that that's an issue, we will deal with it then. But overall, we're, I think, just all excited to have that much more of the feeling of openness. And I can actually talk to some students today when I was out on campus, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this feels totally different from last year. It's great." Even though as they were wearing their masks outside, which they didn't even have to be doing, so that was really good. We'll come back to the mask thing. So the last thing I'll say about this is, look, we know Delta's there, right? We're not ignoring the Delta variant. We understand that it's there. And believe me, hours and hours at CERT meetings talking about the implications of this. And we're taking it seriously. We're going to keep our eye very closely on the data. We've already talked about, ways to scale up or down restrictions as needed. As we rebuild our bubble, such as it is. It's bubble-ish, I guess. It's not a real bubble, but it's kind of bubble-ish, that we're able to scale back on restrictions if we're doing really, really well. If there's big concerns, if there's outbreaks, we'll have to scale up restrictions. We will keep you very, very posted on that. And again, all of our testing data is public, so you can actually watch things happen. So that's kind of where we're going as we head into the academic year. I just want to drill down a little bit more on a few items. So next one, Kate. Vaccine update. Here's where we are. More than 92% of our permanent employees are vaccinated. The 8% who are not are a mix of people who have told us they are choosing not to get vaccinated, and a few, mostly faculty, and a few staff who we don't yet have data from. And so I would ask you, if you, as you are talking to colleagues, ask them to share their vaccine status with us, because I would love for that number to get even closer to 95. And by the way, anyone who we aren't aware of their status or we're aware that they're not vaccinated, we offered them a vaccine yesterday. So we're going to make it really easy for folks to get vaccinated. And frankly, depending on how things go, I'm still open to revisiting a vaccine mandate for faculty and staff. I have not done that yet, but it's definitely possible. Now, that's just permanent employees. We're also tracking part-time employees. The numbers are somewhat lower. They're in the mid to high 60s, I think, but I think that's largely a knowledge issue. There are a bunch of part-time employees in our system who are actually not on campus, adjuncts who might not be teaching here or might not be teaching in person. And so we're working right now to kind of go through all of the, first of all, the numbers overall are much lower than our permanent employees, but in terms of the number of individuals we're talking about. But, there's 100 people or something that we need to go through and say, okay, are these folks not working on campus? And if so, then we shouldn't really count them in our system right now. Are they working on campus but haven't been with us for the summer, so they're just coming back and now we get them plugged in? So we'll get better knowledge of that. It's somewhat lower, but it's a very small group of people overall. And the big group of people here, almost 7,000 of them are students, and 95% of our students are vaccinated. And within a month, that number will be 97%, because we've got 1% who are basically going to get put on leave because they haven't responded to our vaccine mandate. And we've got 1% who are either partially vaccinated or international, so that they're coming here and we're going to vaccinate them. And within a few weeks, they'll be fully vaccinated. So overall, our campus will be at about 95% vaccinated, which is between the students, who are the vast majority of the humans on our campus, and the faculty and staff, will be at about 95%. And that's a really, really good place to be. We start the academic year in a really strong position as a result of that. And I just want to urge anybody who is still hanging back and who is still hesitant from being vaccinated, let us talk to you about it. Don't be shy about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't be angry, whatever. Like, let's have a conversation, talk to our health services people, ask the questions that you have, because this Delta variant is no joke for the unvaccinated. And so we want to help protect you as best that we can. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then in terms of positive tests, so that we were testing at a lower level during the summer. This is the last 30 days. It actually doesn't have the last couple of days on it. But so you can start to see our numbers of tests. So the gray is the number of tests that we process every day. So that first day where students came, where some student athletes and the RAs and stuff came, was that 739 day. So since people have really started repopulating the campus, we've had one positive case. That's pretty good. The last couple of days, we've had many hundreds of more tests happening. No positives there yet either, which is fantastic. So we're looking really, really excellent as we come back together. But this next week, if you're ever going to be keeping your eye on the chart on the COVID dashboard, this next week or two is a really good time to do it, because bringing people back together, getting that onboarding testing done, making sure we're rebuilding the bubble well. And for everybody on the call, I hope that you are making your appointments to get yourself tested, get back into that weekly cadence. If you were doing it optionally over the summer, now every person who's working on campus at least one day a week needs to be in our testing program. So let's talk about masks. So this was like the email I was crankiest to have to send about COVID stuff, which is that we had to go back to indoor masks. I don't love it, but I don't know, you all don't love it either, but it's totally the right thing to do right now, especially as we're rebuilding the bubble, especially as we're really understanding how this Delta variant is going to impact our highly, highly vaccinated community. So slightly busy chart, but yet better than bullets. So let's just talk through this. So first of all, outdoors. So if you're outdoors, it's very safe, especially if you're vaccinated, to be without a face covering. If you're in an environment where you're feeling like people are close to you, hey, you might want to throw that face covering on. That's certainly acceptable. Like I said, I was actually surprised today how many people I saw outdoors on campus with face coverings on. I think that's great. We need to normalize people wearing masks, wearing face coverings. If you're not vaccinated, again, in general, it's pretty safe being outside, but our face covering, we strongly advise you to wear a face covering. Indoors, right now, the rules are the same for everybody, regardless of vaccination status. So if you are in your own office, as I am this second, for students in their own living space, which means their dorm room, or if they're in a suite, their bedroom, or their common area with their small bubble of roommates, their face coverings are optional because they're basically at home and I'm in my private office at work. Otherwise, we're asking people to wear face coverings indoors. And even when we're dining, don't rip it off for the whole time. Take it down when you're eating or drinking, put it back up. That is a place where the data would show that we, need to keep our eyes open for issues of transmission, right? When people take their face coverings off. So bottom line here is being outdoors is great. Being indoors, we're really confident that with face coverings and with such a high vaccination rate, that we're also going to be in good shape. And we're going to watch our testing data really, really closely as we get into the fall. Okay, so that's where we are on mask guidance. Now listen, let me just say one other thing about the masking. So one of the things I personally have, like, my heart aches for is faculty members trying to lecture in a mask. I think this must be really, really challenging. And students trying to understand faculty members who are lecturing in a mask. And so I would ask our faculty on the call to take some real extra time about trying to make sure that your students can understand you and that you're slowing down. You don't talk as fast as me. And my hope is that as we get the bubble rebuilt, we may be able to start relaxing mask requirements in certain cases. And one of those to me would be someone speaking in a classroom, especially if they can keep their distance from the students for the most part. So again, bear with us on some of that. Let's be flexible. Let's, we're going to go in with, and this, right? As a parent, like set the strict rules, and then hopefully we can loosen the rules a bit as people come back. But we want to start it with stricter. And so please work with us to try to make this work for our students in the near term so that we can all continue to do the in-person courses at the density needed to really deliver our education. Okay, so next one, testing. Okay, so we're doing pooled testing. What is that? And if you've already been to the testing center, you see it's a little bit of a different setup. First of all, you blow your nose outside before you go inside. What a concept. And the whole thing, once you get in the building, once you get up there, it's like 45 seconds. It's really fast. We have the ability to, this PCR testing is so incredibly sensitive. They can take 10 swabs at a time and analyze them and see if one of the 10 is positive. It's amazing. And which is great. From a cost perspective, it's great because it actually costs the same as to do 10 tests as it used to cost to do one test, which is very, very nice. We spent millions and millions of dollars last year doing all the PCR testing we did, which was essential to keep the campus safe. But you can imagine, like, the challenge is you have a positive pool and there's 10 swabs in it. Now, all of a sudden you have to figure out which one of those 10 people is actually the positive person, right? So there's advantage at times to do smaller pools. And actually just today in CERT, we were talking about going down to pools of 5 for the first part of the term as we're repopulating and getting into the beginning part of the term so that it's less disruptive if there is a positive pool, right? So before I talk more about the pool testing, new waivers. So because it's a different kind of testing, we have to do a different thing that people sign. So you got emails about your new waivers. And if you haven't signed them, you've probably gotten multiple emails about it. Please go find one of those emails and click on the link and go sign your waivers. It takes 2 minutes. It's really fast. You won't be able to get tested until you do it. So, and we need everybody in the testing program. That's a big part of our safety protocol. So individual swabs will go in the thing. So here's what happens. There's 3 possible outcomes of a pooled test. 99% of the time, probably, you're going to get a result that says, and I'm working on getting them to change this language because no follow-up testing needed. That equals negative. All's fine. Forget about it. Go on with your day. Like, I wish they would use the word negative in what they give us. So we're working on that with them. We did not make up the thing. The Broad is doing it and they're fixing it. I hope we'll get that fixed very soon. But if you get your email and you click on the link and you go in and you see, and it says no follow-up testing needed, you're golden. All good. Your pool was negative. Nobody in your pool is COVID. You're all good. There are 2 other things that could happen. One is your pool tests positive. There's one person out of, say, the 5 in your pool, or in some cases it might be 10 people in your pool. You don't know who those other 9 people are because it's random as people just come in and the next person in line puts their swab in. If you get a call from health services, answer your phone because they might be calling to say, hey, your pool is positive. And we need you to come down to Hackfeld Street to health services and take a quick test, a Binax Now test. If some of you taking these at home, I love them, but a quick rapid test. And usually, and this is what happened with our 1 positive pool, we've now done over 400 pools, only 1 positive out of all 400. And they very quickly were able to figure out there was 1 positive person in the pool. So used to be when you got a call from health services about your test, it meant you had COVID. Now, if you get a call from health services about a positive pool, you might not have COVID. Please don't panic. I know it's going to be hard not to panic, but please don't panic. Please go, again, the vast majority of you are vaccinated. So the danger is quite low, even if, unfortunately, you were to get infected. They will give you instructions. Very specific instructions about where to go and take your rapid test. And again, if that test is negative, you're good. There could be another problem with your test. So sometimes they have an operational, like a processing problem with tests. They used to have this, and sometimes it happens with pools. You might get an email which says, go retest at Harrington because your pool had a processing problem, in which case just go retest at Harrington as soon as you can. So again, vast majority of the time, no follow-up testing needed. And that just means my pool's negative, we're good to go. So I'm happy to answer questions about that as we get into the Q&A, but it's a really lovely technology, and it's kind of an amazing thing to think that, we could do 10 tests for $20 or $25 or something. It's amazing. Okay, let's go one more operational thing. Travel is another big, nasty thing we dealt with last year where we couldn't travel anywhere and there was all tons of restrictions. Okay. So again, trying to come back to more of a sense of normalcy, but still recognizing that COVID is still there, and especially internationally, it's tough when vaccination rates are still relatively low around the world. So first, the good news, WPI sponsored domestic travel is allowed. It's permitted, no restrictions. You may travel domestically. Yay. Faculty and staff, this is I'm talking to. There's still some restrictions on students, and we're working on student clubs and things like that. So this is for you all, not for them. Individually, students may travel also, but like official student club travel and stuff we were talking about today, that's a little more complicated. But so if you're not vaccinated and you're traveling, you need to follow all the CDC guidance, which also includes testing. And we have some of the info on that on our website. So go always check WPI website about traveling. International travel. There we are restricting. If you are not vaccinated, you may not go on WPI sponsored international travel. Even if you have a religious exemption or a medical exemption, we are not sending unvaccinated people around the world at this time. If you want to travel internationally and you are vaccinated, great. Then we just get into issues about the country. And there are a lot of countries that are still considered high risk for COVID. And in fact, right now, that number is higher than it even was a few months ago. So if you want to travel internationally, if you're vaccinated and you want to travel internationally to a high risk country, you need approval. This link, which of course we're on Zoom, so it's not really a link, but this My Trips travel registry link will get you into the system for approval. And by the way, we expect everyone traveling internationally, our new travel policy, to register their trips with this My Trips travel registry. This is our international SOS software that we partner with, which means if anything bad happens anywhere in the world, we know how to get a hold of you, and we know how we can get you out. And it's really, really worth the few minutes of effort to register your trips. In fact, I would say we should really start registering all our trips, but especially for international trips, you got to go through that My Trips travel registry. And if you just Google WPI My Trips travel, you will find it. And then our project centers, we're working very hard to try and get students back to project centers. And of course, Delta is throwing a bit of a wrench into some of those plans as well. But we have a special sub-team of CERT that's making those decisions on a case-by-case basis and reporting out to CERT. So there is some project center travel, especially domestically, taking place in a term, and perhaps a little bit of shortened international travel, depending on the risk level of the countries involved. Okay. So I want to wrap this up pretty quick here. So just a couple of things coming this fall. You can mark your calendars. Actually, we'll send this out. We'll put it in WPI today. Where I want to honor Jeff Solomon, his last few weeks here on campus, even though Mike Haran has already started. Jeff is with us for a little bit longer. And so we'll be celebrating him next, is that next week? Yes, I guess that's in about a week. NECHI accreditation visit. Which is our accreditors, WPI's accreditors, very, very important. The visiting team is meant to be here October 4th through 7th. You will see them potentially around campus. One of the things they like to do is go up to people and talk to them about what they think of the campus community. And I think we've either just posted or are about to post our self-study report, which a huge team of people worked incredibly hard on, with a special shout out to Emily Perlow and Art Heinricher for leading our self-study effort. This is a big deal, folks. And we'll talk more about it probably at our next town hall before we get into it, because It's it's literally our license to operate in the higher ed world. And not that I think we're in any danger of losing our accreditation, but it's a chance every 10 years to really reflect on who we are and who we're trying to be and what our aspirations are. And then to have a group of outsiders come in and say, okay, are you meeting your own aspirations here? Are you living up to your own values? Are you moving the institution forward in ways that are benefiting students? We're also having the public launch of our fundraising campaign, which is called Beyond These Towers. In other words, like out into the world, beyond these towers, amazing things happen. And that's going to happen in October. So Donna Stock and the whole advancement team need the support of the entire campus to make this campaign a success. We've been in what's called the quiet phase or the leadership phase for the past few years. We're actually hoping to announce this last fall, and COVID. So no. We're excited to go forward with it this fall. You'll be hearing more about it as we get into it. And also it's great timing to be launching a fundraising campaign because it's coinciding with launching our strategic plan, which again, we'll be talking about much more as we get into the year. And as I close, I always open with the North Star, and I want to close with what I think is our bigger North Star going forward beyond COVID, right? Which is our new mission and values. WPI transforms lives, translates knowledge to action to confront global challenges, and revolutionizes STEM through distinctive and inclusive education, projects, and research. That's who we are and who we're trying to be even better. And I hope that each of you will start to internalize this, and we'll be bringing it back out to the community for more interaction and discussion in the coming months. But be thinking about what are the stories of transforming lives that we can tell and that we want to be able to tell. How are we going to revolutionize STEM in the next 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 150 years? It's, to me, very inspiring. And while our education has always been distinctive, I think that's about our history. It hasn't always been as inclusive as we want it to be. That's a real aspiration for us. And how do we show up and make that aspiration a reality? One way is by living our values. And again, we've had a lot of community conversation about these values, and these are the 5 that have emerged: respect, community, inclusion, innovation, and achievement. What do those mean? This is going to be a fun, I think, part of the year, is actually talking together about how do those values show up in who we are? How do we behave in ways that really reflect those values? How do we, give a shout out when that happens? I think it's about WPI really becoming who we can be. And that second one, community, really speaks to my heart. And when we have something happen, like the death of a student, like what we sent the email about today, it's this community that I count on to come together and support one another, to take a step back and reflect on how can we better support our students. And I just know that you all keep that community front and center for yourselves and for those you work with and for those you serve in our student community. And so as I close, if you can just take down the slides for a second, I just want to ask Charlie Morse to come in and make a few comments about the loss that we've been through, and about how we can help support each other in that, and how we need your help to make sure that that this kind of thing doesn't happen. So Charlie, thank you. Thanks for joining us to tell us more about loss of Lorenzo, but also more about how we move forward together.
Thanks, Laurie. And good afternoon, all. As Laurie just said, I am so appreciative of having been in this community for so many years, and the way that this community does come together after tragic losses. And I will say, in all my time here, I cannot recall when we had 2 such losses within a short span of time, with Jeffrey Wu dying just over 3 weeks ago now. And then, just as Laurie announced today, Lorenzo Di Simone passing away. And I think it's a real blow to our community, obviously. It's important that we do come together. We do what is called post-vention work after we lose someone from our community. And this involves just general open community gatherings for people to just get together and talk about their loss, their thoughts, their feelings, their memories of this person that they've lost. That's really important for the community healing process. Just so we're not feeling so alone in it. And it is so important to just publicly acknowledge and support each other in these losses. So that did happen with Jeffrey with a Zoom, and then our in-person meeting, which were both very well attended. And it will happen now with Lorenzo. A Thursday at 1, as Laurie announced, there will be a Zoom gathering. Zoom is an excellent vehicle now, especially where people could be all over the place. It'll allow them that opportunity to gather in that environment, and to be announced an on-campus gathering to follow up. These are really compelling and important, meaningful gatherings. They're really difficult though, but to have been through many of them now, there's so much healing that goes on, and it's just a very important part of the work ahead. So of course, we're following up with impacted individuals who experience this loss much more deeply, having known these students directly, friends and such. We're working with them individually and in groups, and we will continue to do so. Moving ahead, it's important that we recognize that this work has been ongoing for years and years in here. And again, we've done these mental health awareness trainings. We've offered them for many, many years, and I've always been impressed the way faculty and staff and students have shown up for these types of trainings. There are 2 such trainings I just want to highlight right now. One is recognizing and responding to student distress. It's an hour-and-a-half training that we offer 2 to 3 times to faculty and staff. We're going to offer that training far more often this year. You will see that advertised in just the days ahead, an opportunity for anyone in the community to gather to talk about mental health issues and suicide prevention, all part of empowering this community to be responsive and aware around mental health issues. We have many, many student groups who request this particular kind of programming, and we do provide it on request. And I also want to offer that to faculty and staff, particular departments that might want to request that our staff come in and facilitate these programs within a more intimate setting, such as your own department, to talk about these types of issues. We also have our, it's really a best practice 6-week mental health training called Student Support Network that we developed here at WPI 12 years ago, and is still ongoing to this day. We do have a cohort for faculty and staff in A-term, just starting in just a few weeks, and there are open slots for that training. And we'll add more trainings if there is enough interest. Anybody, any faculty and staff who are interested in joining in on the 6 weekly 50-minute deep dive into mental health issues in small groups, 15 to 18, please just write SDCC at WPI. Laurie included that address in her notice. So just write us, let us know you're interested. We'll follow up, we'll get you into this training. Obviously we're going to be redoubling our efforts. This work is never going to be done, but clearly in the wake of 2 sudden losses such as this work becomes really important for us and this community. Again, I just want to express my thanks to this community. This is really difficult work for myself, my team, folks in the Dean of Students office, anybody on the front lines. And I would not be able to do that. We would not be able to do this without your support in the way that you've reached out to support us in that work. So thank you all so much. And I'll just close with that.
Thank you, Charlie. As always, a great guiding light for our community and for our students. And, I think, look, it's hard to know, it's terrifying to think there could be a pattern. And so obviously we're keeping our eye very closely on things. I think that it's real that students everywhere, that young people everywhere are struggling as a result of these last 15, 18 months. And I close by asking you all to stay on guard, to stay observant, to engage. And I know it's feels like a moment would be way easier to like engage with your basement and in your own house or your own family. And I'm asking you, to be a part of this community and engage with our students. And then if you see something that concerns you, there's a way to say, I have a concern about a student. There is a way, and every single thing gets looked at through our care team. We will be, as Charlie said, redoubling our efforts. So I want to thank those of you that responded to the message already with outpourings of grief or suggestions or concerns. Believe me, we will be keeping this top of the agenda. And oh, by the way, it's top of the agenda in the strategic plan as well. We're talking about some very new and holistic approaches to student well-being. And I think it's quite clear that that is really needed. And so we'll be supporting Charlie and others in those efforts as well. And one of the most important things in that is to cross this artificial barrier between co-curricular and curricular, right? Bringing faculty and staff together to form a web of support for our students. And so, and again, creating a place where it's not only students that can get that support, but our faculty and staff as well, that we really become an interconnected community supporting one another. So thank you again to Charlie, and thanks to all of you. I know we didn't leave a ton of time for discussion, but Kyle, are there a couple of things that we want to talk about in a Q&A?
Yes, thank you, Lori. A couple of questions about vaccinations. With the booster now being recommended, will WPI offer that to employees, or should employees get that from their own medical provider?
So if at all humanly possible, we will figure out a way to offer it. But after the experience we went through last spring, I will honestly say I don't know if it will be. I'm sure that Lisa Perlman from Health Services is already in touch with the Mass DPH trying to figure out whether or not we can have booster clinics on the campus. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that. And it sounds like what they're going to try and do is stagger it such that people are getting it at about the same time after their second shot. So hopefully it won't be quite as much of a crazy mad rush, and then we might be able to figure that out, and it will be more widely available across lots of different outlets. So stay tuned, I would say. Right now, there's not very much known about exactly when and how that's meant to be available, but I guarantee you our vaccination team will be on the job looking for ways to do that. And if for some reason we can't, we'll communicate that to you as well, so that folks who got their first shots on campus will know that they'll need to access boosters elsewhere. So we'll be in touch on that. Lisa, if I missed something, I don't know if you're back here, but if feel free to jump in, or Philip.
You said exactly what I had written, Lori, just that we have already reached out to the Mass Department of Public Health, and we will see if we can order vaccine. And, we're just now, this is breaking news. So we are on it, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to offer vaccine clinics. So we'll keep people updated as we get more info.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Will there be any efforts to sequester our highly vaccinated WPI population from the general population of Worcester, where vaccination rates are lower?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? I mean, we can, again, that's why I call us we're bubble-ish, right? We're not really a bubble, because some students and all of us live off the campus. The good news is that Massachusetts has very high vaccination rates overall. Worcester was lagging a little bit with some of the rest of the Commonwealth, but overall the vaccination rates are increasing, and they're continuing significant efforts in the city to get more and more people vaccinated. So that's the good news, is that it's better than it is in a ton of parts of the country. And yes, we are. So look, we're not doing the lockdown situation as seriously as we did last year, right? About no going off campus and socializing and things. But although even then we didn't tell them they couldn't go off campus. But we are spending some time and energy. We talked about it at CERT this morning with students, constructing messaging to students about the importance of being careful and being thoughtful, because frankly, it's not even the broader Worcester community that I worry about. It's students are compliant on campus, and then they go to their off-campus apartment and maybe not so much. So just talking about, again, the good news is this community takes their community responsibility very seriously for the most part. And so we're just going to continue to reinforce that community responsibility. If you want to see something interesting, look at Reddit, which I normally would never recommend. But if you look at the WPI Reddit page, when we put out the note about the mask, of course, somebody posted like, oh, this is terrible. And a bunch of other students were like, listen, read it closely. Like they said, it may not be forever. And we're trying to protect everybody as we're coming back together. Like there are a lot of students out there trying to drive good information, not misinformation, and good behavior, not destructive. And our students are really in need of some social interaction. So we're trying to figure out more and more ways for them to do that safely here on campus with us in a more of a controlled and safe environment. So yes, and.
Thank you for that. And now onto the pooled testing. Could you reiterate, if you're asked to retest, where do you go? And can you just walk in, or do you have to make an appointment?
Yeah, so I think I might have my signals crossed here. I might need Lisa and Philip. This is what part I was trying to ask about this morning at CERT, folks. So if you get a positive pool, you definitely go to health services for your follow-up test. Lisa, come on and help me. Or Chloe, maybe. If there's an inconclusive or a processing problem, and apparently you get an email, that's the one that confuses me. So who can help me with that?
Let me take a stab at it for a minute. So for a pool that is a positive pool, the public health team will call each individual who was in that pool and ask them to come to 27 Hackfeld for a rapid antigen test, that Binex Now test that Lori was talking about. And that is a 15-minute test, and you will quickly get your results. And we're hoping that we would locate the positive individual from that rapid testing. So that's for a positive pool. But there's some other results that you can get, like an invalid pool or a test not processed pool. And so for those pools, we're figuring this out. But what is likely is that you'll just get an email saying that, please, can you go back to Harrington and test again as soon as possible. So really within a day or so, just because for whatever reason, those tests weren't processed correctly. So it has nothing to do with actually finding virus in the sample. It's just that there was a processing issue. And so for those people, we don't need them to get that rapid test. They'll just go back to Harrington and do another pool test, which will be processed correctly.
Right. So it's kind of like last year, right? So occasionally, like I think I had one of these once, like, hey, your test didn't work, go back and get another test. It's kind of like that. So, but again, if you are part of a positive pool, then that is testing at 27 Hackfeld, which is that health services, Lisa, or is that across the street from health services? What is it?
So yeah, health services now has two buildings, one and 27 is that White House directly across the street from the brick building that has been health services for a long time. And we have set up a whole rapid testing operation on the first floor. And so that is where all the reflex testing for positive pools will happen.
And I see a question here, which I'll just ask Kyle. Someone saying, like, for those of us that aren't working on campus every single day, it might be that we're not on campus the day after our pooled test. So how does that work in terms of a reflex test?
Yeah, so again, the public health team will reach out to you and will really kind of work with people to get them to come to 27 Hackfeld as soon as possible. But you have to realize, even if you aren't working on campus, like, we need to get to the bottom of that positive pool as soon as possible, because we have to contact trace, we have to clean correctly. So it is going to be really important to get everybody in a positive pool tested individually as soon as we can, because we've got to find that positive. And there could be more than one positive. Like, we just need to know the results for individuals at that point. But we are going to work with people. We realize there's all kinds of different scenarios that might happen. And so the public health team will be working with people to figure out the best solution.
And I see Ricky posted, thanks Ricky, in the Q&A that she was in the positive pool, that our one out of the 400 pools we've done so far, the one, congratulations, Ricky. She got a call and she went to health services and did the rapid test, and was very easy and got the negative test, and she was on her way. So I do think, again, this is a little bit of a different process than last time. And so more of us may be temporarily impacted, but again, I think it's a faster and much more economical way of keeping our whole community tested. And so it's, again, and look, pooled testing works best when the positivity rate in the community is really, really low. And so if for some reason we were having outbreaks and the positivity rate was higher, we might, again, reduce the number of swabs in a pool or think about a different approach. But for now, we're gonna work on this and we'll learn as we go. Okay, it's after 4. Was there something else, Kyle, that was pressing?
I can close on a very optimistic question about
Sure.
travel. Should we log our international vacation trips?
It's a
in the
good
travel
question.
registry?
Yeah, it's not required, I don't think, but you can. I think I'm saying, Kent, I don't know if you're back here, but I think you can. And it's not a bad idea because again, there's a bunch of support that comes with logging in any and all international travel. It's sort of a benefit of being a WPI employee. Kent, help me, am I right? Somebody, I hope I'm right. Okay, if I'm wrong, we'll let you know. Kent isn't on the call. Okay, whoever asked that, if we find out the answer is different, we'll email you, but feel free is the basic answer. Not necessarily required. Although again, you can imagine, so think about Haiti, what just happened with this earthquake in Haiti. If someone had been on vacation in Haiti, it would have been good to know that. So if we had an employee there, we could reach out with support and help. So I would definitely urge folks to register all their international travel.
Yeah, Lori, I was just going to jump in, and WPI does have the international SOS program, which is related to all of our travel for exactly the reasons that you just talked about.
Yeah.
So folks can register their trips through even your personal trips through that travel link, and that it is a good way for us to be able to know where you are and then be able to provide resources and support, whether that is for personal travel or WPI sponsored travel.
You need local medical care, if you need evacuation, if you have some other kind of emergency, it's good. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with what happened to me on my latest trip, which was not international, which was that I got charged $8,000 for a rental car. But luckily, Twitter seems to be helping with that. Hopefully, I will get a refund.
So
Okay.
register your trips with Twitter.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Kyle. And again, thanks to everyone for being on, and excited to get into A term and really be back on campus together. So I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks.